Mist curled like silver smoke between the ancient trees of the northern forest. The air smelled of pine, wet earth, and something older, something almost alive. Era moved carefully, her boots sinking slightly into the soft moss that covered the forest floor. Every step she took felt both ordinary and important, as if the ground itself waited for her. She had been wandering these woods for days, maybe weeks. Time was difficult to measure here. The sun barely pierced the thick canopy, and shadows seemed to stretch and twist on their own. Yet, she did not feel lost. There was a strange comfort in the quiet, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig or the distant cry of a bird. But what made this forest extraordinary and slightly frightening was the pack of wolves that followed her, not at a distance, not in cautious observation, but always near, always alert, always waiting for her guidance. Some had gray fur that shimmered in the dim light. Others were black as midnight, eyes glinting like amber lanterns. Era did not understand why they obeyed her. She had not trained them, nor called them in any way she could name. And yet, if she paused or shifted her step, the wolves mirrored her instinctively, moving as one, silent and perfect. A low growl broke the stillness. Era's head snapped toward the sound. From the mist ahead, a large gray wolf stepped forward, its eyes sharp and calculating. Its fur bristled, but when it saw Era, its posture softened. She whispered a word that she did not realize she had said aloud. The wolf's growl faded, and it lowered its head in submission. "You don't have to do this," Era murmured, even though no one was there to hear her. She felt the word in her chest more than in her throat, a language older than humans, older than the forest itself. A sudden rustle of leaves made her freeze. From the trees above, a shadow fell, long and imposing. Era's heart quickened, but she did not run. Most people would have screamed or bolted. She only waited, listening, feeling. "You shouldn't be here," a deep voice said. It was not harsh, but it carried authority like iron wrapped in silk. Era turned slowly to see him. He was tall, taller than any man she had ever seen, with shoulders broad enough to carry a kingdom. His hair was black, but streaks of silver ran through it, as though night itself had painted him. His eyes, sharp and piercing, were like twin blades. He wore a long coat of dark leather, and the emblem of a wolf was embroidered on the chest, the mark of an Alpha King. Kalen, the Alpha King. Stories of him traveled even beyond the northern forests. He was known for his strength, his cunning, and the pack of wolves that answered his every command. And yet, when he looked at her, there was something more than curiosity in his eyes, something that flickered like fire against ice. "Why do they follow you?" Kalen asked, stepping closer. His voice was calm but carried weight, the kind that made the wind pause. He gestured toward the wolves, now standing perfectly still, ears pricked, waiting for Era's direction. "Why does my pack obey you instead of me?" Era opened her mouth, then closed it. She had no answer. Even she did not understand the force that connected her to the wolves. I don't know," she admitted. Her voice was small, uncertain. For the first time, someone had seen her with eyes that demanded answers she could not give. Kalen's gaze did not soften. Instead, it sharpened, as if measuring every pulse in her body. The wolves shifted, sensing the tension between them. Ira felt her own heart race, not in fear of him, but in anticipation of something she could not name. "Come with me," Kalen said finally. "I will not harm you, but you will tell me what I need to know." Era hesitated. The forest had always been her sanctuary, her only home. To leave it would be terrifying, yet something about Kalen's presence compelled her to follow. With a cautious nod, she stepped forward. The wolves fell in around them, forming a living wall of protection. Kalen watched them warily, his fingers brushing the hilt of a sword at his side. "They are loyal," he muttered. "But loyalty to someone else is troubling." Ira did not answer. She did not understand what loyalty meant to these wolves, only that their obedience was not commanded. It was natural, effortless, as if they recognized her as part of their world. They walked in silence toward the king's stronghold, a fortress built from stone and shadow atop a jagged cliff. Even from a distance, the walls looked untouchable, impervious to both time and storm. The forest thinned as they approached, revealing the valley below where mist rolled like silver rivers. Kalen finally broke the silence. "You are not like other humans," he said. There was no accusation in his voice, only curiosity laced with caution. "There is something in you, something my pack knows and respects. I must understand it." Era swallowed. She had felt this strange power all her life, a connection to nature, to creatures, to forces she could not explain. But no one had ever noticed. No one had ever asked. Not until now. The gates of the fortress loomed before them. The wolves halted at the edge of the drawbridge, unwilling to cross without her presence. She stepped forward, and they followed, moving as one, silent shadows against the stone. Inside, the hall was vast and dimly lit, torches casting flickering light on the stone walls. Shadows danced like spirits in the corners. Kalen led her to a chamber overlooking the valley, where more wolves waited, lying in silent obedience. Even from inside the fortress, the pack obeyed her as if she were the center of their world. "You have power here," Kalen said softly, almost to himself. "Power I do not understand. And it frightens me." Era looked at him, searching his face. She saw no malice, only a cautious fascination. "I never wanted this," she said quietly. "I only exist. I don't know why they follow me. I've never asked them to." Kalen studied her for a long moment. His eyes softened just slightly. "Sometimes power is not chosen," he said. "It chooses us." The air between them thickened, heavy with unspoken truths. Era felt it, a magnetic pull that made her pulse quicken. Kalen, who had faced countless threats, whose presence alone could command fear, now felt uncertain, as if she held a key he did not yet understand. Suddenly, a howl pierced the night, deep, mournful, and echoing through the fortress walls. The wolves stiffened, their ears flat, growls rumbling low in their throats. Era's eyes widened. She recognized the sound. It was not a normal wolf. It carried sorrow and anger, a weight she could feel in her chest. She stepped forward instinctively. The pack parted, making a path for her. "It's coming," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but there was resolve beneath it. "Something is coming for them. For me." Kalen's hand hovered over his sword. "Stay behind me," he said, but she shook her head. "No," she said firmly. "They trust me. I have to meet it." He studied her, every line of her body, every flicker of emotion. The Alpha King, master of his realm and ruler of countless wolves, felt the weight of something he had never faced before, helplessness, intertwined with awe. The howl came again, closer this time, and the shadows in the hall seemed to twist and pulse with unseen energy. Era closed her eyes, reaching out with the part of herself she had barely understood. The wolves' growls faded, their bodies relaxed, ears perked, eyes attentive. Then, a figure emerged from the mist outside the window, a wolf, larger and older than any Era had seen before, its fur silvered like moonlight, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly intelligence. It stopped, staring directly at her as if measuring her soul. Era took a step forward. "I know you," she whispered. I know you from before." The wolf tilted its head, as though acknowledging her words. Kalen felt a chill run down his spine. The air between them was alive, charged with magic older than the fortress itself. He realized then that Era was not just a stranger in the forest. She was something far greater, something bound to the wolves and to forces he did not yet comprehend. "Who are you?" Kalen asked quietly, more to himself than to her. Era opened her eyes, silver light reflecting faintly in their depths. "I don't know yet," she said, "but they do." The wolf let out a long, mournful howl, and the entire pack echoed it, a symphony of sound that shook the chamber walls. Era's hand lifted slightly, palm out, and the wolves stilled immediately. Even the massive silver wolf lowered its head, its eyes never leaving hers. Kalen watched, stunned. His pack, loyal to him for years, had surrendered their obedience to her without hesitation. Something in her had changed the balance of power here, something he did not understand. Ira met his gaze. "There is more," she said softly. "Something in the forest. Something waiting. I can feel it. And soon, you will, too." Kalen took a step closer, the weight of his authority pressing down on her, yet for the first time, he felt it challenged, not by defiance, but by something deeper, something primal. He realized that this was only the beginning. The forest had secrets, the wolves had secrets, and now Ira had secrets of her own. Outside, the mist thickened. The howl returned, more urgent, carrying a promise of danger and revelation. Era's eyes met Kalen's once more, and in that moment, he understood that nothing in his kingdom, or his life, would ever be the same. And in that silence, broken only by the soft rustle of fur and the distant cry of the forest, a bond was formed, unspoken but undeniable. A bond that would challenge pride, awaken power, and awaken something neither of them had expected: longing. The fortress loomed like a silent sentinel against the gray sky. Its stone walls rose jagged and imposing, shadowed by the thick canopy of the forest beyond. Within those walls, life moved in measured, quiet steps. The corridors were lit with flickering torches, casting elongated shadows that danced and whispered like unseen spirits. Era walked beside Kalen, her senses alert to everything: the faint scent of moss that had crept through the stones, the distant echo of the wolves' growls, even the whisper of wind threading through the cracks of the fortress. She could feel the presence of her pack at every corner, their loyalty unshaken. But she also sensed tension, a flicker of unease in Kalen's posture that only strengthened her resolve to understand the connection she had with the wolves. "They obey you as if you are their alpha," Kalen said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was low, carrying the weight of command. "And yet, I am the one who rules them. Tell me, why do they listen to you?" Era shook her head, stepping carefully over the polished stones of the great hall. "I don't know," she whispered. "I never asked them to follow me. I just am here, and they are." Kalen's jaw tightened. His pride bristled at the notion that his pack might recognize another as their guide. Yet, there was something in her presence, something older than the fortress, older than the stories whispered about him, that drew the pack to her, and it frightened him more than any enemy ever had. "Then you will stay," Kalen said abruptly. "Here, within the walls, until I understand what you are." Era hesitated. The forest had always been her home, the wolves her family. To stay inside stone walls, under the watchful eyes of a king she barely knew, was frightening. And yet, she saw no malice in Kalen's eyes, only curiosity and a strange, unspoken respect. She nodded slowly. "I will stay," she said. The days passed in a tense rhythm. Kaylin's wolves circled her wherever she went, silent and obedient. Ira learned to read their subtle movements, the twitch of an ear, the shift of a paw, the flick of a tail, and in doing so, discovered a new depth to her bond with them. They were not merely animals. They were extensions of the forest, mirrors of her own instincts and emotions. Kaylin watched her closely during this time. He was both a ruler and a warrior, used to command and obedience. Yet Era's presence unsettled him. The wolves obeyed her effortlessly, responding to her unspoken commands in ways that even he could not anticipate. And when she moved, he felt as though the air itself bent around her, as if the forest recognized her power even inside his walls. "You are unlike any human I have ever met," Kaylin said one evening as they stood on the fortress balcony. Below them, the valley was cloaked in mist, the wolves moving like shadows between the trees. "There is a strength in you, a strength that is not yours alone. Where did it come from?" Ira stared out at the misty valley, watching her pack move. "I don't know," she admitted softly. "I have always felt connected. To them, to the forest, to something older than myself. But I don't understand it. And I never wanted it." Kaylin's gaze lingered on her, his expression unreadable. "Power like yours is not given lightly," he said. "It is dangerous. Not for you, but for everyone around you." Before she could answer, a commotion rose from the courtyard. The wolves were growling, their low rumble vibrating through the stone walls. Era's heart tightened. She knew that sound, the warning of arrival, a threat she could not yet see. Kaylin drew his sword, stepping toward the window. "Stay behind me," he ordered, though his voice held uncertainty, an edge of concern that surprised even him. Ira shook her head. "No, they trust me. I must go to them." With that, she moved into the hall. The wolves parted, forming a path as she walked, their eyes shining with intelligence and loyalty. Kaylin followed reluctantly, his instincts as a warrior warring with the fascination he felt toward her. At the edge of the courtyard, a figure emerged from the mist, a wolf, larger and older than any Ira had seen before. Its silver fur shimmered in the dim torchlight, and its eyes glowed with intelligence that seemed almost human. The pack surrounded it, circling with caution and reverence. Era stepped forward instinctively. "I know you," she whispered. The words were more than sound. They carried recognition, memory, and a promise she could not explain. The silver wolf tilted its head, its gaze piercing her very soul. For a moment the air hung thick with silence, charged with a force neither human nor wolf could name. Kaylin's hand hovered over his sword, but he did not strike. He did not move at all. He watched, captivated, as the bond between Era and the wolf played out silently. "I felt it," Era murmured, her voice shaking slightly. "A presence, something older than us, stronger than the forest itself. It is angry, but it is not evil. It is lost." Kaylin's brows furrowed. "Lost?" he asked. "What do you mean?" "I think it is a spirit," Era said softly. "Bound to the forest, bound to the pack. It is waiting for something, or someone." The wolves growled again, low and warning, and the silver wolf stepped closer, its eyes never leaving Ira's. She raised a hand slowly, palm toward the creature. "I am not your enemy," she whispered. "I only wish to understand." The wolf circled her once, sniffing the air, then lowered its head, a gesture of acceptance. The other wolves followed, their growls fading into murmurs of acknowledgement. Kaylin felt a chill run down his spine. Even his pack, trained and loyal to him, had bowed to her guidance. "What are you?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper. Era did not answer immediately. She looked at the wolf, then at her pack, and finally back at Kaylin. I don't know yet, she admitted. But they do, and soon so will you. That night, Kalen could not sleep. He wandered the battlements, watching the valley shrouded in mist. The wolves moved below like shadows, silent yet alive, and in the distance, the silver wolf stood alone, its eyes fixed on the horizon. Era joined him without a sound, stepping onto the balcony with her usual grace. They are restless, she said. Something approaches, something older than the forest, older than the pack. I can feel it in their eyes. Kalen nodded, gripping the railing. Then we must be ready, he said. Whatever comes, we face it together. You, and I, and them. Ira looked at him, startled by the weight in his words. For the first time, Kalen's presence did not intimidate her. Instead, she felt a strange comfort, a connection forged not by command, but by mutual recognition. She reached out instinctively, her fingers brushing the back of his hand. Kalen caught her wrist gently. His grip was firm but not harsh. You must trust me, he said, as much as I will trust you. I do, Era whispered. She did not fully understand why, only that the wolves had taught her trust, and now, so had he. The night deepened. A red moon rose above the horizon, casting its light over the fortress and the valley below. The wolves stirred, restless shadows against the silvered land. Era's senses tingled with anticipation. She could feel the presence of the spirit, the energy of the forest, and the unspoken promise of something waiting to be revealed. Kalen stood beside her, his eyes scanning the horizon. If what you say is true, he murmured, then our lives are about to change forever. Ira nodded, silent, feeling the weight of that truth in her chest. The wolves moved closer around them, a living wall of protection and power. The silver wolf stepped forward once more, its eyes locked on hers, and in that gaze, Era felt both warning and invitation, a challenge she knew she could not refuse. A sudden wind swept through the battlements, carrying a howl so deep and sorrowful it seemed to shake the stones themselves. The wolves bristled, ears flat, teeth bared, and even Kalen's hand tensed on the railing. Ira stepped forward, raising her arms slightly. "Stop!" she commanded softly. The pack froze, obedient, attentive. The silver wolf lowered its head. "It is coming," she whispered. "Soon. And we must be ready." Kalen's hand brushed hers, almost accidentally, and for a moment the world seemed to hold its breath. Neither spoke. The forest, the wolves, the fortress itself seemed to pause in anticipation. Era knew that the danger was real, but she also knew that the bond forming between her and Kalen, between her and the wolves, would define what came next. She felt a flicker of something she had never experienced before. Courage born of trust, and strength born of connection. The howl echoed again, longer this time, carrying a promise of both danger and revelation. Era's eyes met Kalen's. "We are not alone," she said softly, "and soon you will understand why they follow me." Kalen did not reply. He only nodded, his jaw set and his eyes reflecting both uncertainty and awe. He had faced many enemies, many threats, and yet, for the first time, he felt powerless. Not against a foe, but against the mystery that was Ira. And in that moment, standing together on the battlements, surrounded by a pack that obeyed her more than him, Kalen realized the truth. The forest, the wolves, and this woman were bound together by forces he could not yet name. And whatever awaited them beyond the mist, it would change everything. The forest was silent, yet it throbbed with life. Every shadow seemed to move of its own will, every rustle of leaves carried meaning, and every breath of wind whispered secrets older than the mountains. Ira felt it in her bones, the presence she had sensed for weeks, the force that had called to the wolves, that had drawn Kalen and her together. The silver wolf stood at the edge of the clearing, watching. Its eyes glowed with intelligence and a strange sorrow, as if it carried the weight of centuries. The rest of the pack circled around Era, forming a protective ring. Kalen followed closely, sword in hand, his eyes scanning the forest. He felt a tension unlike anything he had ever known, a tension that was not just physical, but something deeper, spiritual. "You can feel it, can't you?" Kalen asked, his voice low. The wind carried it away almost immediately. Era nodded. "It's waiting, and it knows us." Her hand hovered near the silver wolf, not touching it, but connected. The creature seemed to understand, its growl softening, its stance easing. "This is not just a wolf," she whispered. "It is a guardian, bound by something ancient, something unfairly punished." Kalen frowned, stepping closer. "Punished?" "Yes," Era said. "Long ago it was bound to protect this forest, this land, but someone, long ago, broke the balance. The guardian was trapped between worlds, neither alive nor free. That's why it waited. That's why it listened to the pack. And to me." The silver wolf moved forward, slowly, deliberately. Its eyes were fixed on Kalen as if measuring him. The tension in the clearing thickened. The other wolves shifted uneasily, growling softly, their ears flat. Ira raised her hand once more, palm open. "Peace," she said softly, a command not of force but of trust. The wolves obeyed instantly. Even the silver wolf lowered its head, bowing, not submissively but in recognition. Kalen's breath caught. He had ruled the pack for years, and yet here, in the presence of this stranger and the mysterious woman who walked beside him, he felt both awe and humility. "You have a gift," he said quietly. "A gift I do not understand." Era shook her head. "I don't know if it's a gift," she admitted. "I only know it is mine to bear, and now I think it wants me to heal it, to set it free." Kalen stepped closer. "And if it is dangerous?" Era's eyes met his. "Then we face it together." The red moon shone above them, casting everything in silver light. And then it appeared. A shadow, taller than a man, darker than the night, emerging from the mist. It moved like a storm, and yet its eyes glimmered with sorrow and longing. The guardian had not come alone. It carried a weight, a curse, and a power that made Kalen's blood run cold. The wolves growled, low and threatening. Kalen raised his sword, prepared to defend both himself and Ira, but she stepped forward, holding up a hand. The pack froze, waiting, and Kalen hesitated, unsure whether to strike or to trust her instincts. "Wait," she said. Her voice carried through the night, soft and commanding. "It is not here to fight, not yet." The shadow moved closer. Era could feel its sadness, its anger, its longing. She whispered words older than language, words that felt like wind brushing through leaves and stone. The shadow stiffened, listening. The wolves watched, silent and alert. Kalen took a cautious step forward. "Who are you?" he demanded. The shadow shivered, almost like a living thing. Then, a voice, echoing in the clearing, deep and mournful, spoke, not in human language, but in a tone that carried pain, history, and hope all at once. Kalen felt the words more than he heard them. Era's eyes filled with tears. "You were bound unfairly," she said softly. "You protected this land with all your strength, and yet they trapped you. I can set you free, if you trust me." The shadow shifted, as if reaching for her, but paused, uncertain. Kalen's grip on his sword tightened. "Be careful," he warned. "We do not know its power." Era nodded. "I know." Then she stepped closer, and the silver wolf followed, brushing against her legs as if lending support. She whispered again, words filled with power, trust, and understanding. The shadow began to shrink, its form softening, its dark presence becoming less threatening. Kalen watched, awestruck. He had never seen power used like this, not by kings, not by warriors, but here in Era's hands, it was gentle, yet unstoppable. She was not commanding, she was guiding, teaching, healing. Finally, the shadow took a form less threatening, more like a great wolf of silver light, its eyes no longer glowing with anger but with gratitude. It bowed its head to Era, then turned to Kalen. The Alpha King, whose pride had always been his armor, felt it soften, break even. "You," Kalen began, but no words seemed enough. Ira smiled faintly, exhaustion and relief mingling in her expression. "It is free," she said simply. "And the pack is whole again. We all belong together." The wolves howled, a long, triumphant sound that echoed through the forest and fortress alike. Kalen lowered his sword, feeling the tension in his body dissolve. He looked at Ira, seeing not just the stranger who had walked into his forest, but the woman who had reshaped the power he had always known. "You have done what I could not," Kalen said quietly, his voice filled with awe. "Not with force, not with command, but with something stronger, with understanding." Ira looked at him, her eyes softening. "I only listened," she said. "I listened to them, and to you." For a moment, silence wrapped around them, thick and full. Then Kalen stepped closer, slowly, deliberately. He did not speak. He simply extended his hand, brushing hers lightly. The contact was gentle, yet it carried the weight of trust, respect, and something more, something neither of them had admitted before. The wolves circled them, quiet now, watchful, protective. Even the silver wolf, the guardian, remained close, as if recognizing the bond between the two humans who had faced the forest's oldest secret together. "You are part of this pack now," Kalen said finally, his voice low, almost a whisper. "Part of my world, part of my life. And I choose to trust you." Era's chest tightened. She had never known such acceptance, such recognition, not from the wolves, not from humans. And yet, here it was, standing before her in the man who had once seemed untouchable, distant, unshakable. "I trust you too," she said softly. "I will follow you, and the pack will too. But we are stronger together, not separate." Kalen nodded. "Together," he agreed. His eyes searched hers, and in that moment, they both understood the depth of the connection that had formed, born from shared danger, trust, and the quiet courage to face something neither fully understood. The red moon began to sink behind the distant hills, casting the clearing into silver twilight. The wolves settled around them, their forms a living tapestry of loyalty and power. The forest seemed to breathe, its long-held secret finally laid to rest. Kalen finally spoke again, his voice firmer, filled with resolve. "The world beyond this forest will not understand what happened here tonight, but it does not matter. We know, and that is enough." Era looked at him, her heart full. "Enough for now," she whispered. "But the world will test us. It always does." Kalen smiled faintly, a rare, unguarded expression that softened the hard lines of his face. "Then we will face it together, as Alpha, as guide, as allies." Era nodded, feeling the weight of the forest, the pack, and the Guardian's freedom settle around them like a cloak. The bond between her and Kalen, fragile and tentative yet unbreakable, had been forged in trust, danger, and the quiet understanding of the wild. The silver wolf stepped forward once more, nuzzling Era gently before returning to the shadows. The other wolves howled softly, a lullaby of loyalty, completion, and hope. Era watched them, understanding at last the depth of her connection, not just to the wolves, but to Kaelin, to the forest, and to the legacy that had chosen her. "Stay with me," Kaelin said quietly, not as a command, but as an invitation. Era's lips curved into a small, tired smile. "I will," she said. And in that promise, the bond of the Alpha King and the Wolf Guide was sealed, not by power, not by fear, but by understanding, trust, and the quiet courage to face what was unknown. Above them, the last light of the red moon faded, leaving the forest bathed in the gentle glow of dawn. The wolves moved through the trees, shadows and light intertwined, their loyalty unwavering. And at the heart of it all, Era and Kaelin stood side by side, two souls bound by fate, trust, and the quiet, unspoken promise of what was yet to come.